social workers. This presentation is going to be on social culture factors, and this is going to help you within the exam when it comes to assessing certain clients, knowing different communication styles and just values that they hold, but also just with Unit 1 as well, knowing different cultural barriers and things of that nature. So hopefully you find this presentation helpful. I have extracted the information from this for this presentation from Dunn Abgore's clinical exam guide. So a lot of the information that I am presenting to you will be directly from that guide, but of course I wanted to give you an audio visual version of it so that when you come across this information on the exam, you'll recognize some of the things that are common amongst different cultures. This presentation, before we get into the specific cultures, I just want to generally give some information on the effects of culture, race, and ethnicity. So social workers must recognize the importance of culture, race, and/or ethnicity on behaviors, attitudes, and identity. Clients do not share the same beliefs and practices or perceive, interpret, or encounter similar experiences in the same way. Social workers must recognize that people have ethnocentric views that are shaped by their culture, race, and or ethnicity. It is often difficult to appreciate differences and to address these differences effectively because many people tend to see things solely from their own cultural bound perspectives. So that is one thing that is good for social workers to keep in mind. Now, when we're talking about language and communication, language is a key element of culture, but speaking the same language does not necessarily mean the sharing of the same cultural beliefs. Styles of communication and nonverbal methods of communication are also important aspects of cultural groups. So we as social workers need to keep this in mind when we are working with clients of various cultures. When it comes to geographic location, any culture is subject to local adaptations, okay? So that's going to also influence how they see things and certain behaviors. When it comes to worldview, value, and traditions, culture can be seen as a frame through which to look at the world, beliefs, and practices that can be used to explain why people do what they do, set of values and traditions to delineate one group of people from another, and so on. When it comes to family and kinship, although families are important in all cultural groups, concepts of and attitudes towards family are culturally defined and can vary in a number of ways, including the relative importance of particular family ties, family inclusiveness, hierarchies within family, and how family roles and behaviors are defined. When it comes to gender roles are largely cultural constructs. Diverse cultural groups have different understandings of the proper roles, attitudes, and behaviors for those of different genders. So understand that this will vary from culture to culture. When it comes to socioeconomic status and education, this affects culture in several ways, namely through the accumulation of material wealth, access to opportunities, and the use of resources. Education is also an important factor to the socioeconomic status, with higher levels of education associated with increased income. Discrimination and historical racism have led to lasting inequalities of socioeconomic status. Poverty results in limited access of resources, increased stress, and enhanced vulnerabilities to substance use and mental illness in some cultures. Okay, now when it comes to immigration and migration, understand that immigrants who are refugees from war, famine, oppression, and other dangerous environments are more vulnerable to psychological stress. For immigrants, there may be conflicts in identities, wanting to fit in with a new culture while also wanting to retain the values of their cultures of origin. Immigration nearly always includes separation from family and culture and can involve a grieving process resulting from these losses, as well as change in socioeconomic status, physical environment, social support, and or cultural practices. So that's something very important to understand and realize when you are working with immigrants. And then when it comes to sexuality, diverse views and attitudes about appropriate gender norms and behavior exist between cultural, race, and or ethnic groups. So in different cultures, sexual behaviors will be considered acceptable, while in others it's not. Um, the degree to which they accept same gender relationships and the types of sexual behaviors, whether that's considered acceptable or not, that also varies from culture to culture. So this is just some things to keep in mind as we are about to get into the different specific cultures and what their values are. So we're going to begin with African Americans. Some common themes in this culture is the importance of extended family, role flexibility, high respect for older adults, and strong religious beliefs, and a close relationship with the church. Okay. Um, they view mental health as a consequence or a personal weakness. So mental health is not always generally accepted in the African American community. When it comes to family, they have multi generational family systems, strong kinship bonds, including extended families and relatives without blood ties, family flexible roles, and women are often viewed as being all sacrificing and the strength of the family. When it comes to communication, they can often be animated. It often includes physical touch when they're communicating. They're direct. They show respect at all times. There's a history of racism and a sense of powerlessness that impacts their interactions. When it comes to spirituality, they turn to the community and or religious leaders. Church is seen as a central part of their community life. When it comes to values, they have strong kinship bonds, strong work and religious orientation, and distrust for the government and the governmental systems, and have a strong sense of pride. White or Caucasian Americans. Some common themes is the sense of time and following strict schedules, and the belief in hard work and rewards. When it comes to mental health, they are more apt to utilizing mental health services. When it comes to family, divorce is common. Personal desires are put over family. Parents are more like friends to their children, and they try to avoid physical punishment. When it comes to communication, they can be long winded and interpersonal, and everything needs to be documented. When it comes to spirituality, religion is a private affair, but mainly Protestant and Bible based. Values include capitalism. Poverty is a moral failing, and wealth is held in high esteem. Physical beauty is valued with white skin, blonde hair, and thin body being the ideal. Sports are important or an important part of life. Democracy and freedom are also values and individual rights. As we move forward, please keep in mind that this is general cultural factors. This does not mean that every African American or every white American or every Hispanic is in alignment with this. This is general culture values. Again, extracted from Don Abgar's exam guide. So this does not mean that every single person you encounter are going to have the same exact values, or they're going to communicate the same way, or they're going to believe the same thing spiritually, or their families are going to be set up the same. This is this is generalized for the most part, and so this helps whenever you are working with or assessing these different cultures to understand generally what kind of things to expect, what kind of backgrounds to understand. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Hispanic Latino. Some common themes are the significance of a common language, the significance placed on relationships with nuclear and extended family, including aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents, as well as close friends, the importance of spirituality and religion, and strict gender roles. Latinos are less likely to seek mental health treatment, and there are increased disparities to access treatment. When it comes to family, they have a deep sense of commitment and obligation to family. Family unity, welfare, and honor is important. Emphasis on group rather than individuals, and the males have greater power and authority. When it comes to communication, they often speak Spanish. Clients may be very expressive and friendly and playful, but in switching to English, their speech may be more businesslike and guarded. Okay, so even though they may speak both languages, it's a different tone of communication. When they're speaking in Spanish, they're more expressive, more of their natural selves, and English is more of on a from a business perspective or more guarded. When it comes to spirituality, most are Roman Catholic, emphasis on spiritual values, strong church and community orientation, interdependence. Values wish to improve their life circumstances, respect for dignity of self and others, respect for elders and authority, very proud of heritage, never forget where they come from. Indians and Native Americans. Some common themes. These include the importance of extended family and respect for older adults, non interference, harmony with nature, the concept of time and spirituality. Much more likely to seek help from a spiritual and or traditional healer than from mental health or medical sources. So that's important to know. Again, that is not saying that no Native American will seek mental health services or things like that, but that could be a case where they're coming in to see you and they're not comfortable because it's not something that their culture is used to. So we would have to keep that in mind. So that would be an example of how to generalize that information. When it comes to family, they have complex family organizations, strong kinship bonds. They value group over individuals. Husband and wife tend to communicate more with their gender group than with each other. Harmony within the group is very important. Common sharing of material goods and group decision making. So they are more group oriented when it comes to family. When it comes to communication, they have indirectness, being still and quiet. They're comfortable with silence. So this is also good to know when working with a Native American. They value listening and nonverbal communication. They may avoid making direct eye contact as a show of respect when talking to a higher status person. Okay, so I will tell y'all that the family and communication areas of this presentation are very important to pay attention to. When it comes to spirituality, it's a fundamental part of life, interconnectedness of all living things, sacredness of all creation, the use of traditional and Western healing practices like a medicine man, a shaman, or spiritual leaders, or their traditional healers. The values they value holistic care, interconnectedness of the mind, body, and heart. Time is viewed as a circular flow that is always with us. They follow nature's rhythms rather than linear time. Moving on to Asian Americans, some common themes include family as the primary unit and individuality as secondary in importance, interdependence among family, and their involvement in patriarchal hierarchy. They're more likely to be fearful about a diagnosis or assessing mental health. They may prefer homeopathic methods of treatment. When it comes to family, like I said, the patriarchal system in which a wife has lower status and is subservient to her father, husband, and oldest son. The obligation to parents and respect for elders, strict family roles and rules of behavior and conduct. When it comes to communication, they're often indirect in order to avoid direct confrontation and maintain highly valued harmonious relationships. They're less emotional expressiveness or more reserved, and um, they're less in their demonstrations of affection. So they're not really affectionate people when it comes to demonstrating it. In the area of spirituality, cultures influenced by Confucian and Buddhist philosophies. Values, adhering to rules of conduct reflects entire family. Usually seek help from the family or cultural community. May respond to psychotropic drugs different, which will require lower doses of medication and experience more side effects. So this is something on the medical side, which they're saying that when it comes to psychotropic drugs, they may require lower doses because of more severe side effects. Going to Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, some common themes is that they are really big on family and they may underutilize mental health services. When it comes to family, family is not restricted to those related by blood. They have the we are all related type of energy, and they cherish their ancestors. And it's best to involve the family in discussions and the decision making processes. So that's good to know when you're working with individuals from this culture that they're very family oriented and include their family in a lot of their decision making. Now, when it comes to communication, they represent different languages and customs, and Hawaii is the only state in the United States that has a designated native language. When it comes to spirituality, they're polytheistic, which is the belief in more than one God, belief that spirits are found in non human beings and objects such as animals, waves, and the sky. Values is the importance of culture and welfare of all living in a community, and sharing is central. So they have a community type of mindset where they share their sharing everything, material goods, and all of that. So now we're going to move on to the Muslim community. I wanted to add this in because I have seen a few exam practice questions in regards to the Muslim community. So I just wanted to bring you some information on that. This information was not extracted from Don Abgar's book. This information was just information that I researched online. So just keep that in mind. Some common themes or social values are divided into three groups: necessities, convenience, and refinements. Human basic values consist of life, reason, descent, property, and religion. Islam protects these primary human values and prohibits any violation of them. Mental illness is sometimes not well understood in the Islamic faith. When it comes to family, they have large families. Respect is earned with age, since experience and wisdom are attributed to more years spent living. Caring for your parents and the elderly in their latter years is considered an opportunity from Allah. The family is headed by patriarchs who strive to maintain ideal families. They spread their values not only within the family, but to everyone who comes in contact with it. When it comes to communication, touch between members of the opposite gender is strongly discouraged, except immediate family members. When it comes to spirituality, intense religious observance based on faithfulness to Allah and the teachings of Muhammad. According to Allah, SWT, we are to help one another so that we may receive infinite rewards in this life or the afterlife. Muslims are required to pray 5 times a day. When it comes to their values, there is strong segregation between legitimate and illegitimate relationships in Islam. Premarital sex is strongly discouraged. Love and bonded are expected to develop after marriage. They prefer doctors and clinicians of the same sex, especially in cases concerning gynecology. So, one thing that is big in this community is they prefer women to be with women and engage with women, and men to engage with men. They dress very modestly, where they cover up their bodies, including their face, because they believe that, only their significant others should see um, certain parts of their body. So just keep that in mind. Again, this is information that I got offline. All right, y'all. So that concludes the presentation. Again, I hope this was helpful. Play it as many times as you like. Share it with a friend because this does help you when you are answering cultural type questions on the exam. Again, I am not speaking to every person from from these different types of communities. I am just giving you the information that I got out of the book and what I researched offline. So a lot of these I cannot speak to personally. It's not something that I am going to debate about or say what's true, what's not true, because again, this is just based off of information that I extracted. So if you're interested in any more services, my information is on the screen, my email, my website, which has a lot of resources. You can also check out a preview of my online course where I offer tons of information, practice exams, practice questions, things like that, that helps to prepare you for the ASWB exam. But until then, let's continue to get those passes the savvy way. Thank you.